How's it going, guys? Julian Bradley here from themusicalear.com. Today I've got a different type of video for you because I actually just made a phone call with one of the Musicalear members, a really nice guy called Jay. We've become good friends. And in this phone call, we basically covered three things in particular. First of all, we talked about the blue note, the blues scale, how to correctly spell the blue note, whether it's a sharp 4 or a flat 5. Then we just started talking generally about spelling of notes, whether to use a sharp or a flat. And then finally, we talked about some unusual practice techniques. Now, before we go to that phone conversation, I just want to let you know I have a free giveaway, which is a collection of my own music. In the last video, you saw how I have a music library of tracks of my own, which I use for all my video interludes. Well, I decided to give away 6 of these. They're completely free and they're completely license free, which means if you're a video maker or if you want to use these for your own creative projects, well, you can use these and they're license free. And for a limited time, you can download those just by clicking on the link below. So apart from that, we're going to go straight to the lesson. Here is my phone call with Jay from Santa Cruz.
Also, I do have one. I can't remember this. I think I asked you this before. When do you, like in a G blues scale?
Yep.
G, B flat, C. Do you call it C sharp or D flat? What's the rule on that?
I would call it D flat.
And that's because, that is a good question because there are both C natural and D natural in the blues scale, right? If I'm talking G, B flat, C, C sharp or D flat, also D natural, and F natural, right? So how do you refer to that note? Is it D flat or C sharp? Because they're both notes in the scale.
Yeah, so it's D flat. It's usually written as a flat 5. I'm trying to think why that is. I sort of can feel why it is.
Right. Or is it really more of a Lydian sound, right? Of a bright Lydian sound versus...
You know what?
It sounds flat.
I think I know the answer. It's because the blue note isn't actually the D flat. It's not actually a flat 5. The blue note is actually in between the flat 5 and a natural 5. So on a piano, you can't actually play the blue note. You can play it on another instrument like a saxophone where you can sort of bend the note. But the blue note is a microtone. It's halfway between the flat 5th and the 5th.
That note.
Exactly. So
they try to grace the flat 5.
Exactly. And piano players will often play both notes together. So they'll play the flat 5th and the natural 5th together.
I see.
And that's a sort of pianist's way of playing the blue note. But if you're playing trumpet,
new information for me.
Yeah, if you're a singer or if you're playing saxophone or trumpet, then you can bend the note and you can actually play the blue note. But that's actually probably why they spell the note as a flat 5th instead of a sharp 4, because it's closer to the 5th than it is to the 4th.
Interesting. Got it. Got it.
Now, I just want to add that you will see the blue note spelled either way. You'll see it sometimes spelled as a sharp 4, sometimes spelled as a flat 5th. And this just depends on the arranger who's trying to make the music appear as simple as possible. They want to use as few accidentals as possible. So if there's a melody where you have the blue note and then the 5th immediately after, then in this case it will make most sense to use a sharp 4 as your notation, because you won't have to then use an accidental sign on the following note. So in this instance, it would make most sense to use a sharp 4. Whereas if you had the opposite, if you had the blue note going down to the 4th, then in this case, it would make most sense to have a flat 5, because then you don't have to use a natural sign and say natural 4. So in real life music, you will see the blue note spelled either way as a sharp 4 or flat 5th, and that's just for the arranger to make the music look as simple as possible. However, Jay and I were just talking about the blues scale on its own. If you were to just spell the blues scale out, should you use a sharp 4 or flat 5th? Well, more often than not, you see the blue note spelt as a flat 5th.
Got it.
But I think flat 5 is more normal and is probably the more correct way.
In another case, for example, A major, right?
Yep.
A natural, B natural. C sharp. Is it C sharp? It is because you already got a D, right? Yeah, you wouldn't say A, B, D flat, D. You'd say A, B, C sharp, D.
Exactly.
F sharp, G sharp.
Exactly.
You wouldn't say A, B, D flat, D, G flat, A. You wouldn't repeat the...
No, exactly. And actually,
the D.
Actually, that's how I can answer the question. First of all, you map out each note in the scale and you want it to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And we're going to alter these afterwards, but you want to make sure that your scale has some sort of A, some sort of B, some sort of C, and so on for each of the notes on the piano keyboard. So next up, you find the root note of your scale. So in A major scale's case, we would go to A. And then we want to use our knowledge of the major scale to map out the whole steps and the half steps. So you count up from A, and we know that the major scale goes whole step, half step, and then whole step, and then finally a half step. So now we work up from the root, we make sure that each note goes up by the interval pattern of the major scale. So we count up from A by a whole step, in this case bring us to B, so B is correct, we don't need to alter B. B up a whole step would bring us to C sharp, so we need to alter C here and make it a C sharp, and it's not a D flat because we're on C. Then we move up a half step from C sharp, brings us to D, so we don't need to alter D. Up a whole step from D brings us to E. Up a whole step from E brings us to F sharp, so we need to alter F and make it an F sharp. Then up a whole step from F sharp brings us to G sharp, which means we need to alter G and make it a G sharp. And then up a half step from G sharp brings us back to the root. So let's take a more challenging example. Let's take A flat major. We're going to map out all the note names, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And we're going to map out the whole steps and the half steps of the major scale starting from A flat. A flat needs to go up a whole tone to B flat. B flat needs to go up a whole step to C. C needs to go up a half step to D flat. D flat needs to go up a whole step to E flat. E flat needs to go up a whole step to F. F needs to go up a whole step to G. Then G needs to go up a half step back to the root, which is A flat. So now we have mapped out the scale of A flat major and we've used the correct spelling. So we have no duplicated note names. We only have one A, one B, one C, one D, one E, etc. And we've mapped out that correct interval pattern for the major scale starting from A flat. So finally, let's take a minor scale example. Let's take B minor scale. So it follows the same concept. We're going to start by laying out each of the note names, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. And now we're going to map out the interval pattern of the minor scale starting from B. So the minor scale goes whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So if you count up from B a whole step, it would bring us to C sharp. Up a half step from C sharp brings you to D. Up a whole step from D brings you to E. Up a whole step from E brings you to F sharp. Up a half step from F sharp brings you to G. Up a whole step from G brings you to A. And up a whole step from A brings you back to B. Now this is the method which you use for any type of scale. We've looked at major and minor, but it also affects the modes. So if you had the Dorian mode or the Mixolydian mode, you would do the same thing. You would map out each note name, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then you would map out the interval patterns for that mode or for that scale. So where the whole steps are and where the half steps are, and you just count up from that root note and you make any alterations, sharps or flats. And that's how you correctly spell any type of note and any type of scale.
With the exception of the blues scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue note.
The blues scale is one of a few problematic scales, like the altered scale is also a problem. It doesn't really fit with the classical music theory of how to label notes. And the problem here is that you have multiple types of note, especially the second. So you have a flat second and a sharp second. So because you have a doubled note, it means that you can't spell the scale using the conventional method, which I just explained earlier.
It is, because it's so simple. If you hit, the wrong note or not even the wrong note, if you're not hitting the fat part of the key, it sounds terrible because it's so simple.
Right.
It has to be just punched perfectly right on the downbeat, and it has to be the fat part of the key too. You can't get kind of a 7/8 of a note in there in terms of its punch. It's got to be bump, But the guys who do that, I'm watching Stevie Wonder do this stuff, and I'm like, what? How is he possibly doing that? He can't. He can't see nothing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How is he possibly keeping time like that with no eyeballs?
You know what? Maybe it's actually an advantage if you blindfold yourself, because they say your other senses improve, and maybe your hand coordination, maybe it helps. I sometimes rollerblade down at Venice Beach, and I actually find that I rollerblade better when it's dark. When the sun goes down, I find myself being much more natural because I'm not distracted by what I'm seeing, and I just feel it much more. So I don't know, you could try some practice with a blindfold or just close your eyes.
Actually, I have played in the dark, and I agree. I've started to play a lot at night, after work, and just not turn the lights on.
Interesting.
I can still see a little bit, but I've definitely tried to keep the lights off.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah, cool, man.
We could call it the blind technique.
Yeah, something like that.
The blind method.
You definitely talk about that in the videos. Really appreciate it, Julian. I really appreciate the call.
Absolutely.
And, glad you reached out.
Awesome,
good,
Jay.
Buddy. We'll talk soon.
I look forward to it. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
So I hope you enjoyed that phone conversation. Thank you very much, Jay, for getting on the phone with me. Had a really interesting talk about several things. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments box if you enjoy this sort of format of phone conversations, if you want more of these or less of these. And make sure you don't miss out on future videos by subscribing to my channel. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can get that free download of those library music tracks, which you can use for anything you want. Just click on the link below to get the WAV files. They're completely free and completely license free. And you can also check out my complete course in ear training, where I teach you how to play music by ear at themusicalear.com. Again, I'll put the link below this video to watch episode 1 for free. Now, the course is currently 22 lessons, and I'm continuing to add to the course. By the time I finish, there'll be well over 30 lessons. The price will be going up as I continue to add, so if you're interested in that course, the best time to join is now. And as always, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can try the course risk-free. If for any reason it's not right for you, just let me know, and I'll be happy to refund your purchase. So thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.